Nas. But remember, Nas' first record, The Barbecue, came out when I was in 11th grade. So Nas was my idol when I was young. Like, you dig? Came to dressing, the wordplay, the music, everything. I was a superior Nas fan. Period. I'd never take that away from him. But then as I got in the game, you got to realize that your rivals would be idols, and not to take anything away from that. I developed my own style and my own lane that these kids start to gravitate towards the same way I gravitated towards Nas when I was younger and things like that. It's a whole different generation.
Influence you to Nas, and I don't care what nobody say. I know I made a little boo-boo when we talk about the sales and all this type of things, but I don't feel like getting into that rhetoric about where I started and where he showed up. But listen, Nas was nice when I was in high school. When I was in 10th grade, Nas came out. Nas was dope. We appreciated him. He had a little bit. You gotta start buying baggy your clothes, big fella. Be big, man.
You talk about you in the gym. Now you want me to see me in the gym?
Oh, we can do that. At your own time. So working out, but it's fuck energy. Working out, that's a third job. You're not on strength.
Work however you want to do it.
We talking about what? Look at that. If we talking about working out, I'm going to class. When you talking about working out, I learn time. You talking about working out, I burn you. We're talking about working out of strength. Because you probably can lift the light more than me. You're probably stronger than me. But if you talk about working out, I burn you.
This ain't what you do. This ain't what you want. You ain't but
Now that Jim Jones is threatening to show up in person, this ain't just jokes at Nas anymore. The real issue? Nas barely even acknowledged Jim's existence. And when he finally did, the way he brushed him off was so shady, it sent Jim right back over the edge. But this isn't just some regular rap beef. Jim's been holding on to bitterness that Nas probably left in the past a long time ago. This all really dates back to the early 2000s, when Dipset was throwing shots at Nas on mixtapes. It was all lyrical jabs back then, but Nas barely said a word and refused to feed into it. Still, an old clip that just resurfaced shows Nas low-key clowning Jim, and that right there sparked it all over again. That should have been the end of the story, but Jim's still holding on tight, so clearly it wasn't. He even once said he'd slap Nas, and now he's lashing out at anybody who doesn't back up his...
Nas always came up second to Jay and DMX and all these other people. Like, he never had that type of shit. Never had that type of influence on us, except for his first album. I already told you, I used to want to dress like Nas because he had a lot of fresh clothes that the hustlers used to wear and shit, and we used to see him on TV. He had one of the illest albums of all time. And then in high school when he had the barbecue and shit like that. So I'm a real fan of Nas, but he kind of lost me after Bell
claims that he's on top. When Jim actually threatened to pull up on Nas, the internet went wild again. Fans clowning him hard, saying he's just a washed-up rapper chasing attention. And this time, the heat came back on him heavy. These weren't just throwaway threats. People really weren't feeling it. Jim Jones is always talking about pulling up, but Nas, he's not even entertaining it. On Jim's most recent appearance on they were too afraid to confront him in the studio. And once more, Jim boasted that he was the greatest of his time, as if it were unquestionable. Then chaos ensued. Jim produced a bundle of cash or someone else to pay in person. The only thing Jim is settling on, though, is how ridiculous and stupid the entire circus appears to be at the moment. If you are curious about how this controversy truly got started, it began on the Joe and Jada show earlier this month. Jim discussed how his perception of Nas changed after he started making rap music. In reality, Billboard intervened and verified the information. Jim has only had 2 Hot 100 singles as a solo artist, with only one of them making it into the top 10. Nas, meanwhile, has 2 top 10s and 27 entries in the Hot 100. Additionally, compared to Nas' extensive discography, Jim's only had 3 Billboard 200 entries on the album charts. Nas has 27 charting albums. 6 of them reached number 1 or very near, and 16 of them made it into the top 10. Jim's entire argument about being the best was completely destroyed by that Billboard mix-up, which did more than simply make him seem awful. Jim, however, did not let it go even after being revealed. When Shannon questioned Jim on his sobriety after he asserted that he was a better rapper than Nas, things became heated. Jim retaliated by asserting that he was not only superior to Nas, but also more powerful than him.
Recently saw a clip on Instagram where a young kid was comparing you to Nas and saying that you got
That's my young boy.
big hits. He looked to you. He learned how to wear the BB Simon belt from you. He got his swag. Like, How crazy is that? Because in my era, you know what I'm saying, Nas is like a god.
In my era.
Jim then boasted about Dipset and Nas's old spat from the early 2000s, saying, "I actually mean it. We are the ones that went crazy on those dudes talking about their 2003 track. Soon, we will reveal the entire backstory." Shannon gave Jim the information first, though. He retorted that Nas is far superior than him lyrically. "However, I'm not sure who said that to you. You are self-assured, but you are not seeing Nas." Shannon clapped back in that manner. Even so, Jim refused to stop. He persisted, challenging Nas to face him in the booth if he was serious about demonstrating his superiority. Jim made an effort to appear composed, informing Shannon that he was not angry. The stress then increased once again by accusing Shannon and Ocho of merely inviting him to the show to increase their ratings. He turned the storyline on its head and challenged Shannon to a battle with Jim. After that, Jim completely lost it, and his supporters were tearing him apart on the internet.
Can I ask you a question, Jim?
Mhm.
You smoke, right?
Yeah.
Were you smoking when you said you better than Nas?
I might have been a little.
Shannon also did not remain silent. He retaliated immediately, essentially stating that Jim is far more important to their program than they would ever be to them. Jim then hurried to Instagram, where he called Shannon out once more, while sharing a video of himself working out. Someone warned Shannon Sharpe, "Do not start avoiding this challenge now." He captioned the photo, "Will you speak like a podcaster, or will you be a good example? My shoes were tied. You have previously publicly challenged me. Champ, you might as well get the job done. Let us do it in secret," as Ocho stated that he does not want to do it in public. "I'm aware that his athletic reputation is at stake. We do not have any difficulties as long as you are the witness. I am from a place where size is irrelevant."
Way more influential than Nas, and I don't care what nobody say. I know I made a little boo-boo when we talk about the sales and all this type of things, but I don't feel like getting into that rhetoric about where I started and where he showed up. But listen, Nas was nice when I was in high school. When I was in 10th grade, Nas came out. Nas was dope. We appreciated him. He had a little bit.
"Run it young, David, to all the Goliaths, I hope." Jim posted that in an attempt to come across as tough. However, the Jim flex completely backfired, clowning at him, saying things like he got wheelchair legs, and labeling him a complete moron for chasing clouds at nearly 50. Fans swamped the comment section. What about Nas? Yes, he did ultimately reply, in a sense. Let us be honest first, though, before we discuss it. It is a stretch to call this beef. It all began in 2003 when Cameron and the Diplomats, accompanied by Jim, continued to disparage Nas in radio freestyles and mixtapes. In a now viral video from 2005, Nas dismissed Jim, claiming that he was not even worth a feud with. No one was looking for him. Nas's Hip Hop is Dead album followed, which caused a lot of artists to take offense. Jim, however, took it more personally than anyone else. "Nas? I enjoy Nas's new song," Jim said in a wild interview with So.com. "You know, I will still slap the living daylights out of him. However, I enjoy Where My Gangsta's At, one of his latest songs. That is just a little slick. There are a few bars there. Other than that, though, I enjoy music. Therefore, I can never, but if I had to, I would smack him in the mouth."
You should have never brought this up. Y'all are only 3 years apart, and Nas is just like murdering you. You asked us to look up the stats, and here they are. Like Jim Jones, like you got a couple songs. I mean, like literally it's a couple. But we're talking about Nas. Let me show y'all Nas's last project.
Nas remained silent and kept his distance despite everything. However, Jim did not let it go. Even years later, like in that October 2008 interview with Rhapsody.com, he simply kept bringing it up. "Forget about Nas," Jim said. "Nas does not matter to me. He is a rapper who has recently lost his edge." Jim then related a bizarre anecdote about a heated encounter with Nas and Dame Dash at a Ferrari store during that same Rhapsody interview. Jim claims that Nas was never even close to his level. Dame saw him and spoke to him, Jim claimed. "I was giggling while relaxing on a couch. He was at a loss for what to do. I was staring at him with dead eyes. Then Dame said, 'You know, Jim,' and he began to stutter. The Dame is simply exhausted. None of the silly stuff is on his mind. I don't. Nas was, for the most part, never ever on my level." Here's the twist though, but Nas made no attempt to respond. Jim simply left him on read, despite the fact that Nas was one of his favorite rappers and one of his biggest influences. Jim was not finished though. After years of loud threats and covert taunts, he publicly pleaded for a track and even referred to Nas as the GOAT. Then, in 2023, when everyone believed that this feud was finally over,
Nas been getting it in since 2018. Jimmy, when the last time you put out an album? Oh, would you look at that? You have been dropping music. You've really been dropping music. But nobody's heard it. Nobody's listening.
Is not paying attention, regardless of how loud he yells. Jim is now becoming the echo of the rap game, shouting into a nothingness that has long since stopped responding. Nas has not acknowledged any of these eruptions, spoken a word, or uttered a diss. Jim, meantime, is pleading for smoke on every platform, but no one is offering it to him. It is not a conflict. The performance is a one-man show. The crowd has already dispersed. Nas, in the meantime, and just when Jim felt like he was finally in the spotlight, Nas struck him with the most elegant and icy move. Nothing except a picture. Nas shared a photo of himself at dinner with LeBron James, Draymond Green, and a group of influential Black CEOs on June 21st. The message? We cannot have you sit with us. No tags, no caption. Simply being there. Fans picked up on the ambiance right away. Comments like, "This is how you quiet a one-hit wonder," were common. Silence can sometimes be more powerful than bars. Nas did not have to return the applause. He told us already, "I hardly ever listen to men who have never walked in my shoes. An eagle can see things that a caterpillar cannot." The chapter then comes to an end. If you enjoy the honest chat, make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe to this video. Leave your comments below.